Welcome everyone, we're here on Coffee and Chats, and today I'm speaking to Paul. And Paul has been through the Back in Charge Blueprint, but he's been out of it for around about 4 months. So we're just catching up with him, just to catch up, just having a chat, see what's going on, and just see how he's getting on since he implemented everything from the Back in Charge Blueprint. So before we crack on, Paul, just like to introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
All of those things in 30 seconds.
That's it.
So I live in the middle of the country, so the middle of the UK, which is a county called Rutland, smallest county in the country. Intriguingly, I work in financial services, banking, and insurance market. Have done for quite a few years. And what do? I deliver big programs of change, effectively, which is everything from, new technology to new operational processes. But it always involves people and data and process. So I'm sort of a people person. Who sometimes works or has worked too many hours for their own good, but I sort of get stuff done. I'm one of those sort of people that sort of works a way to get something done and then get it done. I am in my mid-50s, and I like to, with the Back in Charge program, I like to do a lot more exercise than I used to, without a shadow of a doubt. But and I'm sure you're going to say, why did you start the Back in Charge program? I think for me, my weight used to go up and down on a regular basis, and I've done for years, from playing rugby from a youngster and football and all those type of things. And I've always been slightly bigger than the average bear, being 6'5", and I think I'd sort of got out of control a little bit. And then when we spoke, I'd been having some back issues because I'd got some back issues from too much rugby and football and every other thing else. And I was just out sort of just really looking for a way of making it more sustainable for me. And that's effectively, sustainability, given there's a lot of stuff in the overall industry about being sustainable. For me, that was all about, I've exercised in the past, I've done lots of things in the past, but I couldn't make something stick. And that's effectively one of the key things the program did for me, as well as lots of other things as well. So
that's it. The key there is making it stick.
Yeah.
And that's I've been doing this, nearly 2 decades now. And this is something that's, you always see people, they go on health kicks, they lose on a weight loss, cycle, they start losing weight, but then everyone then tends to put it all back on. They can't make it stick.
Yeah.
Now, this is, why I wanted to, speak to you today, because, like you said, that in the past, you'd always struggled to make it stick. And at the moment, you've had longer out the program than you had in the program.
Yes.
So this is going to be, really good, just to speak to you and just to share how you're getting on, like what is actually going on.
So, I think, during the program, for those who are in it, they'll be getting the weekly stuff, and they'll be getting that come along, and it gives them all the skills they need. For those who haven't done the program, and I'll say I'd recommend that you do it, but what it gives you is not only sort of effectively the skills to manage your weight and why you might be eating too much and not exercising. Although you can manage your weight without the exercise, there's a balance of how you want to look after yourself. And I think that the mental side of the training for me was effectively the epiphany, because that for me, all of a sudden it was like, hold on a minute. I'm a bloke who delivers change, but what I've not done historically is apply those common sense things you do for any big change to go, hold on a minute, what am I trying to achieve? Why am I trying to achieve it? What do I want out of it? And what's important to me as a person, as a fan, as part of, is it family? Is it sort of just exercise? Is it a combination of those things? And you sort of pick some of those things apart, and actually you go, hold on a minute, what do I like to do? I like to look after the family. So actually, if I don't look after myself, then how do I look after the family? So you also get to that, right, just a minute, here's my motivation for doing this. Here's my motivation for managing my weight so that I can be active. I can look after the family. I can work. I can do all the things that you need to. I can take the dog for a walk. I can take the daughters to football or swimming or whatever it is. And that for me was the light bulb moment. I think about week 3 or 4, I went, okay, I get it. And then some of the things like the meditation, the cold showers, all that mental side of it, you go, I can see how that is now going to make it more sustainable for me. Because I never used to meditate. I remember when I talked to you about it, you went, yeah, just try it. And I was like, yeah, here we go. And now I do it every day. So it's something that's part of my routine to help me mentally realize the things that are important to me, and that distresses me from work. It sort of sets me up to do things, but it actually goes, right, what's important, what are the goals, what am I going to achieve, and go and do it. And then with the skills that the program teaches you about how you measure those things and how you manage those things, then gives you a, just simply tracking it with some of the apps and that type of stuff. So you can go, right, so for me, out of the program now since June, I've lost more weight since then. I've done a number of events throughout the year, and I'm sure you're going to share the pictures. But that's given me a pattern throughout the week of how I manage my week. If I'm going to London and doing work in London, then I'll be planning on that day I've got those meetings, so I'm going for a nice breakfast, so I've got loads of lovely protein to start the day. That day I'm starting meetings early, so actually I'm going to make sure there's a decent lunch, or I've got some food, or I've got some stuff at home that when I get back home at the end of the day, I know I can have some decent protein and sort of meet the goals for the day. And try and if there's days where I'm meeting a couple of old mates, we're going out for beers and a curry, well, we do that. And I think what I've removed from my weekly cycle, or actual cycle full stop, on food is guilt. I've taken some of the guilt out of, you know what, if I don't hit the goal for the day and I don't hit the protein goal, it's not the end of the world, because you can do more tomorrow. You can do more in 2-day time. If you go out for a big curry, I had a lovely time. You know what, I'm going to do some more exercise on Sunday or Monday or whenever. I'm going to burn those calories, because I don't need them. And that's the whole balance you end up in. And I think that, as it's described in the program, that's my future self, and that's my new normal. So I've got a new normal where I balance those things. And if 1 week I've put on weight for some and had some of the way I'm putting on at the moment actually is I'm building more muscle, because I want to do some events next year. I want to go faster. I want to swim quicker. I want to cycle quicker. It's like, and I know my body fat is dropping and my muscle weight is increasing. So I'm expecting more weight to go up a little bit. So it's not a shock when it happens.
Exactly, which is good, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, before we get onto the, I shared with you the photos that you sent me, I put them together, and we're going to share that in a second. But there's something that you said just a minute ago about asking questions, and it's about the mental side of it.
Yeah.
Now, for a lot of people that I speak to, a lot of the guys, they don't like it that I ask questions. They don't like it that I ask them, well, why do you want to lose weight?
Yeah.
They don't like that in depth, because it's like they haven't done that before. All they've done before is like they've just been told what to do.
Yeah.
But when you then actually start to ask questions, I ask a lot of questions. But when you start to ask questions about, well, why? What's it going to be like in the future if you change? Well, what's it going to be like in the future if you don't change?
Yeah.
And then you then get connected to it. Now, why do you feel that has been from what I know of you, that's been that was the key thing, because you've done exercise, you've done diets in the past, but this was the thing that you didn't do. You started asking yourself questions.
Yeah, I think it's I suppose if you take what's happened to us all over the last 3 or 4 years, and COVID and mental health and those sorts of things, I think everyone's starting to realise that, particularly as men, because there's some horrible stats about people under the age of 30, sort of the biggest killer is suicide. You think about that and you go, well, why? And perhaps it is, we don't communicate effectively as humans, and we don't either ask ourselves or be honest with ourselves of, well, what is your motivation for doing that? What's your motivation for smashing down a chocolate cake? Is it the fact that you're stressed and you just don't, so you come out of a meeting, you're very stressed, or you're worried about money, you're worried about mortgages, or whatever it is, and you turn to that because it gives you instant gratification and you get the endorphins, and then 20 minutes later, you're in the same problem. Rather than you go, hold on a minute, I've got a problem with X, Y, and Z. If I share that problem, and I either ask myself, well, what am I trying to achieve? Or share that problem with your family and your friends, someone might go, well, hold on a minute, you don't need to be doing that. You should do, what are you doing? Let's go for a walk. Let's burn a bit of calorie. And I think some of the simple things about, if you don't want to be heavy, then you've got to effectively burn more calories than you're consuming. Simple as that. It's a really simplistic thing, and that's what you introduce as part of the program. It's, well, just do that because it's simple. Get a better diet because it's simple. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do more eggs. You can get your eggs locally. You can do all those things. You discover that. But then it becomes, well, why am I doing that? What's my motivation? And not only motivation for how you look after yourself, but the sort of meditation training then gets, for me particularly, it's become sort of a thing where, well, it's helped me deal with a load of work stress, a load of personal stress, how I interact with my family, particularly being the father of daughters who I love dearly, but sometimes you think, for God's sake, just don't do it. But then you go, hold on a minute, just take a little step back.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that all makes it more sustainable and gives you some more life lessons and life skills that you can apply.
Exactly. And this is the thing as well. It's not just about you. It starts with you, but it ripples out.
Yeah.
And this is the, people don't really see that at the start when they've only lost a couple of kilos. They don't see that. But, you're inspiring other people. Like, even if you've only just lost a few kilos, you're still inspiring people, because there's been, I'll speak to you later, but there's been, quite a few people that have seen you. They go, oh yeah, I know Paul, and they've gone, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, and that's the thing. So that's really, really good.
Yeah.
Now let's get on to it. So what has changed? Like, if we go back to a year ago, before, we spoke, before we initially spoke, I think we spoke, must have been about March time, but let's go back to 2022, and you did a triathlon, wasn't it?
I've been doing triathlons. Started for me in 2015 as a bet with my older brother, who's the sports Billy of the family, and I started doing them on and off. I then had some knee injuries and stopped, but it's always been something that I've always loved to swim, and I love open water swimming because it's just free. You are just free. There's no lines on the floor. You're just in a big lake and it's you, basically. And I find that and actually I relate that quite a lot to sort of the meditation stuff. I find swimming very meditative, and you've got to focus on your breathing and you've got to focus on where you're going. And that's about what you can do, basically.
Cool. So, Paul, if it's cool, I'm going to share 2 photos, and I just want you just to describe the difference. Like, who is Paul? Who is the Paul on the left?
Oh.
And who is Paul on the right? Like, what's that guy on the left? What's he like? What's he feeling? How's he feeling day to day?
Well, and intriguingly, I remember both of those events, because the one on the right is this year and the one on the left is a couple of years ago. And I remember that event being, I literally finished it and went, thank God I managed to do that, because I think halfway through it was a bit choppy and I was almost I'm going to do this, but I really don't want to be doing it. It was almost quite a negative experience. And you can tell by the size of me, I'm slightly too big for my own good in that one. I think the buoyancy aid that's around my waist only just got around my waist and that type of stuff. So there's a number of things in that picture where I look at it and I go, yeah, that's not a very happy version of Paul. That's a Paul struggling and doing something, because I was determined to do it originally, and I booked myself to do it, so I paid for it. But actually, I didn't really enjoy that in any way, shape, or form. Whereas the picture on the right, which is this year, and that's the new dog of the house in the picture as well. That's Nelly, who gets lots of walking. That's me, effectively. And actually, I think the observation you made to me, which my wife made as well, is from left to right, I almost look about 10 years younger in that new picture. It's just phenomenal, the difference. And there's a big smile on my face. And that was after the event that I did. And I'm all smiling, I'm all happy, and I'm ready to go and do the next one. So that's a completely massive difference. And I think not only a massive physical difference, but a massive mental difference, a mental approach. Because that was just one of the events that I've done this year. And I've done a number more where I've done more swimming, more cycling, and all those things. So it's and that's now become part of and you might hear dogs barking in the background. That's become part of my strategy for next year. When the sun comes back out, I'll be doing events from May onwards, basically. And those will be small triathlons, big swims. But those then all give me a target for my training. They sort of help me focus. So it sort of comes together. So.
Nice. Look at that. Like, just the 2. I remember when you sent it through, I was like, wow, look at that. Like, it's a completely different person.
Yeah.
Completely different person. And it's like what me and Kel says, like, you grow old getting younger. And you're doing that. you know, like you actually look a lot younger with the photo on the right than you do on the left. Like you really, really do. So, you know, like well done, and you should be really, really proud of, you know, the hard work that you've put in. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say thank you back, because I think, the program itself, yes, you have to invest in it. Yes, but for me, that's an investment in yourself, and you have to do the work. Like anything, you have to do the work. But I think now, being out of the program since June, because it's part of my new normal, I don't think of it as, like this morning, I got up at about 5:30 and I was down in the garage in my little gym, and 2 hours later I'd finished the various things I was doing, had a protein drink and came back, and the wife said to me, she said, where have you been? I was like, well, I've been down the garage. Got up at 5:30. I said, well, yeah, because I wanted to get up, I wanted to get it done, I wanted to get some steps in, and I've done all these things. Oh, and I've taken the dog for a quick walk, and she went, oh, okay, well done. And it's sort of, but that's what I do. If I'm working at home, I'm up doing some stuff early in the morning. If I'm going to London, I'm up early. I do a little routine, then I go and get a train, then I do some extra walking when I'm there, and I build the day around get your steps in, get a decent, get decent food throughout the day, and it's just part of the normal things I do now. It's not anything bizarre, it's not anything strange. Yes, I am going to change my training technique and build a bit more muscle, but that's all about wanting to do the events next year. So
that's it. Nice. Now let's just touch on like work at the moment. So like there's a few guys that from work that are also in the Backing Charts Blueprint. They've been through it, and there's one that's been through it. There's also one that's currently just started. There's another couple as well that you're familiar with as well. And I just want to ask you, because I've actually asked the other guys this, but how does being surrounded by people that know the benefits of it and the habits of it, how does that affect like your day to day? Like having a positive network like that, how does that affect it?
It's an interesting dynamic, actually, and I think at some point in the future you could come to London and we could probably get a whole group out and sort of have a big get together. But for me, it's quite a cathartic thing, because I've in all the things I've done and people seeing the change. I've had conversations with people about drinking more water, or just doing a little bit more exercise, and all those. And it's almost that, because it's part of your routine, part of your day. I mean, when I go into the office, I go and buy a 2-litre bottle of water from Tesco's for 70p or whatever it is, and I stick it on the desk, and people go, "Are you going to drink that?" And I go, "Yeah, that's about half the water that I've already done a litre today. That's part of." And those things, that physical bottle on the desk, for me, gives me that, right, I'm going to drink that. And you make it part of your day, and other people go, what's that all about? And then you get into a conversation. So and that sort of reflects what happened in the program. When you first start the program, you are listening to the guys and girls that have done it before at the end of it, and they're giving you hints and tips. By the time you get to week 12, when someone asks a question, I remember the last call I did, somebody who started asked a couple of questions, and I provided the answers, and you just sat back and went, yep, my job here is done. But it's a knowledge share, and I think all of us as humans like sharing our knowledge, like sharing our experience, like helping other people. And I think that positiveness, you can see that translate into the people you work with, the other guys that you've seen now join the program. And it's just, for me, it's part of the person I am now. So if anybody asks me about food or drink or training or all that type of stuff, I give them hints, I give them tips. I say, we'll go and do this, have a look at that. And it just is something that then becomes a default thing you talk about. And then when you go for lunch with someone, they go, why are you eating a big steak and a load of salad? Well, hey, I like a big steak, but I want the protein and I want the salad. And they go, I love my chips. I say, oh, it's fine. If you want to fill your face with chips, have a nice time. I just don't want them. So
yeah, that's it. It's it. And that's the thing, is like people, like when you say that, or when they see you eating a big steak and they also see your progression of what you've actually achieved, they're like, well, how are you able to eat a big fat steak and still get those results? They don't understand. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because it works. And actually, I still get, and I'll just grab it while I'm here. I did post the fact that represents 16 kilograms, and I've lost about 20 odd now. But that's by the side of my desk all the time as a reminder of I've lost that weight and I don't want to put it back on. It's as simple as that. And any old friends who come around for whatever, I always go, pick that up, will you? And they go, blimey, you've lost that much. And you go, well, that much and a little bit more. So, but it's sitting by the desk as a constant reminder of what I've achieved. But actually, what I don't want to go back to is dragging around one of these around all the time. So.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I had a little look at your stats earlier, and I think the most you lost was 24 kilos.
Yeah, it was. I lost 24. That was probably just around the big event that I did.
That's right. Yeah, and then you've put on a little bit more but the thing is, you haven't got bigger. That's the thing. You haven't got bigger. You've just put on a little bit of weight. That's fine.
Well, yeah, and interestingly, my even though I put on a couple of kilograms, my waist has got slightly smaller.
Exactly, which is great. Which is what we want. So it's really, really good. So, like, for you, just before as we finish up, like, what's been like the biggest changes? The single biggest change that you've noticed over the last year in yourself.
It's the mental side, I think. I mean, the physical side, yes, it's a dramatic change. And I've had old friends I've bumped into who have gone, blimey, what's happened to you? And you go, well, I've been doing some work is what's been happening. But I think it's the mental attitude and the mental approach, and making that sustainability and locking that in for me is almost, it's become such a part of my day to day that I can't imagine. So, for example, I can't imagine not having a shower and starting with cold water, then having the hot water, and then finishing with cold water. It feels bizarre. I just couldn't do that. I had a night in a hotel. Me and the good lady wife went away for a weekend. And she told me off, hey, you left the shower on cold. And it was like, that's my default. Yeah. So those type of things are now ingrained in sort of my day to day, and that for me has made it the sustainable thing that it is, and I'll be forever grateful that I did the program, because I think I can now see it. If we have another call in a year's time, I'd like to think I'll be about the same sort of weight, might be a bit lighter, but it will be the same sort of story. You'll be able to say, so what are you doing about this, and what products are you using for your fuel, and where'd you get your protein from? And I'll be able to list it all out for you and go, and if anybody ever wants to know, they can either message me or you, and I'll tell them. I really don't have a problem with that. But it's part of the day to day. It's part of that's who I am now, and crack on and away you go. And that's helped me with not only work but family and all those things. There's things that have got better because of that. There's relationships that have improved. There's work opportunities that have evolved because of some of that positive attitude and just doing stuff and going, I will put myself out there and I will talk to people. I will do some of that because I can. What am I worried about?
Amazing. Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time out today to just come and share how you're getting on, because for a lot of people, it's not the fact of the 12 weeks or the getting started that's their biggest issue. It's what's going to happen after, because they're just so used to everything going back up.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for just taking the time out just to share your experience of what's happening now 4 months after, and how you're getting on. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cool.